Alrighty, guys, here we go. Emergency live stream. Tony White is going to Florida State. Not completely unexpected, but the big one as well. Terrance Knighton, our defensive line coach, is leaving with him. A lot of roster shakeups are going to happen because of this. A lot of transfers are going to happen because of this. I mean, this is just modern day college football, guys. He's not the last. He's not the, or we might see another coach leave. We might see a lot of players leave. Again, signing days in 2 days. That's something that I'm thinking about. I don't know. People aren't really bringing that up. We have signing day in 2 days, and our defensive coordinator's gone, and our defensive line coach is gone. What is that going to mean for when those guys put pen to paper? So we're going to talk about it all throughout this live stream. Again, not shocked by the move itself. I know some people are just absolutely blindsided by this. How could he leave? Not shocked by Tony White leaving it. We've heard the rumblings over the last couple of weeks. Just to put it bluntly, Matt Rhule wasn't really too happy with the 3-3-5, like I said in my video. Just again, not a big fan of that scheme. He was gonna like we will see depending on his defensive coordinator hire. It's gonna be a 4-3 going into next year. I told you guys that probably throughout the fall. But I just think Terrance Knight, that can't be understated how big of a loss that is for Nebraska. The fact that Terrance Knight is no longer going to be here. Um, yeah, again because Terrance Knight was arguably our best positional coach. That's the problem there. Was that Terrance Knight was probably our best positional coach. He developed a lot of guys on that defensive line: Riley Van Poplar, Cameron Lenhart, Prince Man Mielen, a lot of high quality defensive linemen, and he was probably our best recruiter. So the fact that both of those guys are on the way out, oh my goodness, I'm not happy about the Terrence Knight move. I was fine with Tony White leaving because that was expected at this point. It was expected that Tony White wasn't going to be here anymore, whether that was as a future head coach, whether that was as a defensive coordinator somewhere else. That was expected. I'm not happy about Terrence Knight leaving, and I tweeted this out. I don't know. I tweeted this out about 5 minutes ago. This is a awful omen for the Matt Rule era. Okay, the fact that within 2 years of Matt Rule being here, the offensive coordinator's already been fired. The defensive coordinator has left. The DB's coach has left, and and the defensive line coach has left. That's a problem. That is an absolute problem. Black shirts. You make a good point. You make a good point. So that's again bad omen for the Matt Rule era because yes, he didn't hire a good staff. That is confirmed. Okay, we have a lot of garbage coaches right now who really shouldn't have been employed by the staff. But even the good coaches are leaving. Tony White's leaving. Terrence Stein's leaving. Evan Cooper, a lot of people thought he was a good coach. No longer here. So, although Matt Rhule hired a pretty bad staff, it is a bad omen that the good coaches that he did hire are no longer going to be here going forward. Brett says Adam Carricker just released a video saying teams have reached out to Tony, but absolutely nothing is finalized. Do you know if it's true or not? It's finalized, Brad. Like, I mean, when Sean Callahan and Pete Thamel report it, I mean, we'd have to see some crazy last second thing happen, but it's pretty much a done deal. Get Tony White will be gone. Terrence Stein will be gone. Um, so the big conversation isn't if this is going to happen or not. It is going to happen. It's just whether or not more players leave, decommits happen. Who are we going to hire? Because right off the bat, I'm going to tell you this: I want Jim Leonard. I want Jim. That's the number one guy I would like is Jim Leonard, previous Wisconsin interim head coach, previous Wisconsin defensive coordinator. If I'm Matt Rule, I want to hire him. But as I told you guys on Saturday when we were talking about this rumor that Tony White was going to leave, I unfortunately believe John Butler is going to be the hire there. I believe that we're going to promote John Butler from within, from our secondary coach to our defensive coordinator. And I'm not going to lie to you, that's a garbage hire in my opinion. Okay, I shouldn't say garbage, but we could do so much better in my opinion, so much better than John Butler. John Butler was our secondary coach this year. You know what was the worst unit on the team? It was our secondary. It was our secondary. So why are we promoting our worst, basically positional coach to our defensive coordinator? Oh, because he did it in the past. Because he was the defensive coordinator at Penn State a decade ago. People put that in my comment section. Said I'm not too mad about potentially making John Butler DC because he had success at Penn State. Yeah, again, that was a decade ago. College football is completely different. The Big Ten is completely different. The transport is completely different. I have no confidence in a guy who hasn't been defensive coordinator 10 years to do it all over again. Okay, I would rather, and this is what I want Matt Rhule to do the first time. Okay, get rid of the loyalty, Matt Rhule. Get rid of, oh, guys you coached with in the past, screw that. I want Matt Rhule to hire the best coaches money can buy. Okay. In this case, Jim Leonard's probably number one on my list. And I'll make a video probably either tonight or tomorrow going over probably five or so candidates that I want that I think Nebraska should go after, that Nebraska probably will go after. Um, but that's we need to hire the best defensive coordinator money can buy, best defensive line coach money can buy. Let's not promote from within, because that's not what we should do in this situation, because we just lost a very high quality coach. That there's not another high quality coach like him on our staff just sitting around. Josh said, should we be expecting flips from Malcolm Simpson and Kate Pietrzak? I wouldn't. I wouldn't expect that. Again, both those guys are locked in. Those guys are in a really tough situation, though. I will tell you that, because I mean, Malcolm Simpson already says he's going to sign. Kate already says he's going to sign. But yeah, they lose their defensive coordinator. They lose their defensive line coach 2 days before they sign. Like, they're probably going to have some thinking to do. But those guys will sign. I don't know if we'll have a decommit of our defensive linemen. I don't. I think all three of the guys we have at defensive line will stay. The one I have some questions about Bryson Weber. That's the one guy I'm looking out for. Bryson Weber, Jeremiah Jones. Um, but yeah, I'm not too worried about that. Somebody said Prince or Carmen going to Florida State. I think you mean Lenhart. But no, I think Princewell might leave. Vincent Shavers is a name that I heard very early on. Vincent Shavers is a name that I heard very early on as being a guy who could probably go to Florida State. Again, that's a guy coming from the Florida area. So I mean, for him to go back home, that would make a lot of sense. So I just texted his dad too, and I said, "Hey, whatever happens, I wish you guys the best of luck." And he said, "Appreciate it." So Vincent Shavers is the number one guy I'd be concerned about if I were a Nebraska fan leaving. Cameron Lenhart, number two. There's been some rumblings around that already. Larry Tarver's another guy that I'd be concerned about. Larry Tarver tweeted out some earlier today that wasn't too promising. So again, there's some really good players who might be leaving. Now Matt Rhule has a very hard job right now, and he kind of put himself in this situation. So I'm not very empathetic for him. But Matt Rhule has to do a couple things. Number one, he has to make sure that none of these guys leave. That's hard enough in modern day college football. Number two, got to get the best staff money can buy. Number three, you got to continue to build on this recruiting class. And hopefully you don't have any decommits last second. I think probably we might have some decommits. That's the unfortunate truth of the matter, guys. With signing day 2 days away, how soon do we expect, or how soon do we announce replacements? Also, do you expect more coaching departures? I don't think so. I think these probably will be the only two. Um, we could see the linebackers coach leave. I doubt it. I think the board check's going to be locked in. So I think these are the only two coaching additions or coaching departures. But as for when we announce replacements, probably this week. I'd imagine we move pretty quickly. I could see some tomorrow, to be honest with you. Like, I think Nebraska will move very quickly here. Um, Same thing we do with Evan Cooper. I think Matt Rhule knew about this for a little while. Okay, and I told you, like, I knew about this for a little while. I told you guys on Saturday that more likely than not Tony White will be gone. So I think Matt Rhule's informed about the way this was going to go, so he's had time to work on it. So I'd imagine something probably this week. Um, Trev Alberts dodged a bullet, maybe, man. What about McGahee and James Williams? McGahee's another one. I think he's more likely to stay just because his dad really liked Nebraska. James Williams, I'm okay if James Williams leaves. And I know James Williams and Terrance Knighton are very tight knit. Like, James Williams is probably one of the more overrated players in Nebraska football, like recent memory. This dude cannot. He's just only a pass rusher, and he's not a consistent one at that. So not worried about that. Michael says transfer portal time for us. Yeah, man, we got to be aggressive in the portal because we're gonna lose some guys. We're gonna lose some guys. Josh says, don't forget we have to downsize the roster by 50. Yeah, man, that's another video for another day. Like, we have to go. We have basically 160 guys in the roster. We have to get that to 105. So there's going to be a lot of guys sent to the portal. Gabe Irvin was the first one to do so. I'm keeping an eye on it. If there's any more. But again, the main guy to watch out for is Vincent Shavers. That's the one that I'm concerned about. I'm worried about. I hope it doesn't happen. But if Vincent Shavers leaves, we're in a really bad spot. And again, this is not ideal for Matt Rhule. I mean, the fact that Matt Rhule hired the bad coaching staff he did, the good coaches he did hire are leaving. We're gonna have some quality players probably enter the portal in the next week. Like, that's really frustrating stuff. Um, yeah, again, just really bad. Again, not shocked by Tony White, but the fact that Terrance Knighton's also leaving really is questionable, and it makes me rethink how tight Matt Rhule actually is with these coaches. Like I wasn't shocked about Tony White, but I was shocked about Pot Roast leaving. It just makes me re-question everything about how tight knit this coaching staff actually is. And Terrance said he liked Lincoln. Whatever. It is what it is, man. Got to move on. Got to hire a better guy. But if we could get Jim Lenhart, that's an upgrade. We got to. We'll do whatever it takes. We got money to throw around, man. I heard Mosey will be a receivers coach as well. You guys are stealing my. I made a video talking about that on Friday. So that's a movement I'm trying to get going. But I don't think it actually happens, Mike. I hope we keep Dawson, and we will. Dawson's here. Dawson will sign for sure. Our whole defense wasn't consistent. Not worried about it. But Alejandro, the big question is, can we do better than him? Okay, sure, our defense wasn't consistent, but can we get a better hire than Tony White? Can we get a better defensive coordinator? I don't think we can. Truthfully, Tony White wasn't perfect, and a lot of people expect him to be better than he actually was. But can we hire a better defensive coordinator than Tony White? I don't think so. Sure, Jim Lenhard would probably be a better hire. Are we actually betting on Nebraska hiring Jim Leonard? We can't ever do good things around here. We can't ever make that big splashy hire. So why would we do it now? That's the one thing. I mean, why would we do it now? Okay. So more likely than not, I don't think we're going to get a better hire than Tony White. We're probably, again, the most likely scenario from what's going to come of this is that Nebraska promotes John Butler. Now, am I betting on it? No. But of all of the scenarios, that's the most likely thing. And I'm not a fan of that at all. I've already stayed my claim. And I know you had again, Jim Leonard's my number one. Like that's who I want the most. I know most of you guys want Jim Leonard the most as well. But again, do we have confidence in Nebraska making that splashy hiring, getting their guy? I don't have confidence in that. Why would I have confidence in that? Why would any of you have confidence in that? I don't know. Matt Rule needs to make a big hire here, though. He needs to, man, or else his defense is going to be crumbling, man. And to all the players who might transfer out, the only thing I'm going to tell them is wait. Wait until you transfer. Okay. You got to wait because we got to see who we hire. Josh is, do you see Nebraska going after Julian Humphrey, the transfer corner from Georgia? I don't think we're good enough to hire him personally, or not good enough to get him on the portal personally. And I don't know if we'll go after him. Do you think there's a chance Rhule leaves to a dying program if we win a bowl game? No. Rhule's not leaving. I mean, he's in a tough situation right now. He's got a lot to do, a lot to fix. Ryan Walters. You know what's funny? I actually kind of wouldn't mind Ryan Walters, and I get it. I get Ryan Walters failed as a coach, and also on top of it, Ryan Walters is very outspoken about how much he dislikes Nebraska. He's a former Colorado Buffalo, but call it what it is. Ryan Walters is a pretty good defensive coordinator, guys. Let's be honest. Like he was great at Illinois, and Illinois still hasn't reached that level of production that they had in 2022 with Ryan Walters, and he was also a good recruiter. And I also believe one thing that I'm very intentional about when I want Nebraska to hire coaches. I want Nebraska to hire coaches who are old and still have their best days of coaching ahead of them. Okay. So I want defensive coordinators who are going to be future head coaches. I want positional coaches who are going to be future coordinators and such and such. Okay. I think Ryan Walters still has his best days of coaching ahead of him. I think he could get a second shot at being a head coach. Now, that was my whole deal with Dana Holgerson that I'm not like astounded by that hire. Although I like Dana Holgerson, I think he's going to fix his offense a little bit. His best days of coaching are behind him. That's obvious. He's never going to be a head coach again. At least he probably shouldn't. So ideally, I want a guy at the coordinator spot who still has their best days ahead of him. I honestly think Ryan Walters does. Now, his track record of hating on Nebraska probably isn't going to bode well if we were to hire him. I want Jim Leonard the most. Again, I'll make a video probably tomorrow going over all the options, the rumblings, the rumors about who's Nebraska's going to hire. But again, we have a busy week. I told y'all we have a busy, busy week with the coaching carousel, with recruiting, with the portal. Like it's going to be absolutely nuts what's going to go on. So Mike says, I don't think it's Butler. If it is internal, I see it being Phil Snow. It's not going to, I can guarantee you right now, it's not going to be Phil Snow. It shouldn't be Phil Snow, and it won't be Phil Snow. Um, if there's any internal hire, it will be John Butler. Again, I'm not saying I would bet on John Butler being the guy, but of all of the candidates, he is the most likely. Pelini's done, man. Pelini said also he doesn't want to coach at college anymore. So, nah. Dylan leaves. No, Dylan is not leaving. Oh my gosh. I might have to make a video about that. Like, Dylan has a 0% chance of leaving. Guarantee it. Tony White name came out of nowhere. The fact that he left or the fact that he was hired by Nebraska originally. Because again, this isn't shocking to me. Again, we've heard the rumblings. Again, there were three reasons in my mind that Tony White left. Number one, he was already anticipating leaving Nebraska anyways to be a head coach. Obviously, that didn't work out, but he was going into this year like it was his last. Number two, again, he's had some running with Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule does not like the 3-3-5. Matt Rhule, if you listen to him or just believe what I'm saying here from the Nuggets, Matt Rhule wants a conservative defense. Tony White's all about aggression and getting turnovers. It's not the Matt Rhule playbook. And then at the exact same time, the last reason Tony White's leaving is, just the fact that when Evan Cooper left as our defensive backs coach, Matt Rhule became a lot more involved in our defense. Tony White didn't like that. Tony White, when he was at Syracuse, he ran the show on his defense. That was his unit. He was the entire chief and commander of the defense at Syracuse. Same deal at Nebraska in year one, but in year two he wasn't. So he just wasn't really happy. And again, we could not shocking. I'm just mad about Terrance Knighton. That's the thing that I'm frustrated with more than anything is that Terrance Knighton's gone. Next year, offense will be really good. Defense will suck, probably, man. No Nebraska football, and we'll probably win 6 games a game. Tony White came out of nowhere when he was hired in 2022. Well, it was an unpredictable hire, but I wouldn't say his name. I mean, I wouldn't say he was like some nobody. He was one of the best defensive coordinators in college football when we hired him. That was a great hire. Like, credit to Matt Rhule. What do y'all have to pitch to these recruits? Why should they pick Nebraska? Well, we don't have to pitch to them why they should pick Nebraska. We should pitch to them why they should stay with Nebraska, the current commits. I don't know. I don't know what you necessarily tell them right now, but I'd say there's a lot you can do a lot worse than Nebraska right now. You can do a lot worse. Robert Sala, I don't know how much experience Robert Sala has in college football. Like there's a couple things that I care about a lot when it comes to hiring, specifically coordinators. Number one's being young and again having the best days of coaching ahead of you. But the second thing is recruiting. I want a strong recruiter at defensive coordinator, at offensive coordinator. And say what you want about Tony White, he was a very strong recruiter, especially in the West Coast. We were recruiting the West Coast basically only because of him and Donnie Raiola. Okay. So that is really, really frustrating. Really frustrating. There's a lot about the program. If he leaves for Florida State for the same job, I agree with you, dude. I agree. And it's a lateral move. If not, it's a worse move. Like Florida State, say what you want. I know we got some Florida State watchers right now. Florida State won 2 games this year. They are garbage. Worse than us. Worse than us. Okay. Like, and I'm not saying Florida State's going to be bad next year because they have talent and they have good recruiting classes, but Florida State is worse than us, and he went there. That shows you how much of how bad of a situation we're in. Clearly, okay. Why would Dylan leave? Yeah, Dylan's not leaving. We've already talked about this. Appreciate y'all for this info. Didn't know anything about Nebraska till now, but I'm here listening. Yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate you, my man. Again, y'all guys some good hires today, man. Like again, Florida State. Like I got nothing but respect for Tony White. I got a tweet that's going viral right now. I tweeted out about a couple. I tweeted out like an hour ago. I can't even describe how big of a loss Terrance Nine is. Arguably our best positional coach and recruiter, not good. And that got found by Florida State Twitter and has 60 retweets right now. And they're like going nuts. So they got a really good hire. So yeah. Brett says, does Rule have any connections to any DCs at smaller schools like Tulane? I wouldn't know right now. I can that's my job over the next couple hours to look into that and make a good list of guys that we're going after. But again, I prefer to hire somebody that Matt Rhule has no connections to. That's my preference. I don't care about the connections. I just want the best darn coach money can buy. Redo it because that's not what he did the first time. When he got here the first time, he hired his buddies, he hired his boys that he brought along for the Panthers and Temple and Baylor. Can't do that again. Can't do that again. Okay. We got to do this all over again and just simply buy the best coach money can buy, whether that's Jim Leonard, I don't know, and see what happens from there. Tony White left to coach better athletes and play lesser competition. You're not necessarily wrong. You're not necessarily wrong. But I don't think that's not why. That's not he didn't leave for Florida State simply because he's going to coach better athletes. No, there was some turmoil going on over the last couple weeks, last couple months at Nebraska. It's just the way it is. It's the way coaching is. I don't want to overreact about this move because coaches leave. This is college football. It happens all the time. But I want to be I want to be consistent as a program. That's the one thing I want from Nebraska. I told you guys this when Trev Alberts left. I told you this when Evan Cooper left. I more than anything, I just want consistency, man. I want to have the same coach year in and year out, same offensive, defensive coordinator, same positional coaches, same athletic director. That's what I want. The most successful programs have that. Nebraska, at least in the last decade plus, have not had that. That's the issue. That's the problem. Okay, more than anything. Anyways, I digress. Sue, nah, man. Maybe other defensive line. Somebody actually told me that a couple weeks ago. They said Sue for defensive line coach. And I said, nah. Hey, maybe honestly, I wouldn't mind it, but not as defensive coordinator. That's for sure. That is for sure. This seems to be a mutual agreement. It's not a mutual agreement. I can guarantee you, Matt Rhule wanted Tony White to stay, but from a Tony White perspective, he was looking to get out. No, it's not a mutual. Matt Rhule's not pushing out Tony White. Let's not push that narrative because it's not true. So yeah, now that Tony White leaves, Callahan and Sipple said that White wasn't all that. Again, that's what I don't like. Again, Tony White was good, and I'm not listening to their live stream. I'm sure that's probably what they're saying. I'm not trying to flip the narrative. I've always had the same take that Tony White's a good coordinator. He's a good coach. I believe that he's going to be a future head coach. Was this year what we expected from him? No. Like I expected to have a top 10 defense. I expected to have a top 10 defensive line. That didn't end up happening. But it doesn't change how I feel about Tony White. Like I'm going to be completely honest with you, whether he's in Nebraska or not in Nebraska. That's just the way I am. Tony White was a good coach. And Terrance Knight was a darn good coach. You can assure yourself of that. I can assure you of that Terrance Knight was a good coach. And Terrance Knight was a guy that I had a lot of questions about when we initially hired him because he didn't really have coaching experience. And Terrance Knight turned out to be a stud and one of our best recruiters and one of our best developers. Okay. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Like I'm not. I hate it. I do hate it when fans switch up that. Like we do this all the time with players. You know what I mean? Like example Malachi Coleman. Okay, the day before Malachi Coleman transferred, everyone's hyping up Malachi. Saying, "Oh, is this the guy that Dana Holgerson's hyping up in practice?" The day after he left, everybody's crapping on him, saying, "Oh, Malachi wasn't that good anyways." Like let's just be honest when players or coaches are here and when they leave. Let's not change our take. Let's be consistent. That's what you can be assured about me on this channel is I'm going to be consistent. Like if I like a player at Nebraska, I'm going to like a player when he leaves. If I think he's a good player, he's still a good player when he's not in Lincoln. Same thing with coach. So, anyways, I said all that to say this. Tony White's a good coach. It's unfortunate that he's leaving. Very unfortunate. We're losing James Williams. Again, if we do or not, I don't really care. I'm not. I never thought James Williams was that good. I think he's actually one of the more overrated players on Nebraska's football roster. Like that's just been my take. I'll be consistent about it. If he stays, if he leaves, he's a good pass rusher, but he's just not consistent pass rusher. Like he'll get 2 sacks in one game, and then the next game he won't make a single tackle. So Matt Rhule's too coordinator heavy. He will fail if he can't hire. I agree with you, man. You got to make some good hires. You got to make some big boy decisions at the end of the day. Rule style is outdated for today's college football. I think I agree with you in some parts. I do. I think he needs to be more reliant on the transfer portal. I think he needs to be more aggressive. I think his schematics need to be more aggressive, um, especially defensively, especially offensively. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm going to miss Terrence Knight more because of the development that was taking place. Exactly. Like we look at this defensive line and how good it's been. Like Terrence Knight single-handedly turned around the career of Ty Robinson. Ty Robinson, before the Matt Rhule era, was considered largely as a bust. Okay, and when Terrence Knight got here, he turned him into a beast. Same thing that happened with Nash. I mean, Nash really never played. The second Terrence Knight gets here, look how good Nash is. Look how good Jamari Butler is. Look how good Riley Van Poppel is. Cameron Lenhart plays a true freshman. Keona Davis plays a true freshman. James Williams, a guy who I never thought was going to touch the field, has been really, really at least he's getting on the field, making plays. So, anyways, I said all that to say this. I really, truly believe that Terrence Knight is a huge, huge loss for Nebraska. More than honestly Tony White. I was expecting Tony White. Again, I was already anticipating this happening. I was not anticipating Terrence Knight leaving. So I don't know where to go from here when it comes to that. But we got to hire the best defensive line coach money could buy at this point in time. I don't want any of these internal hires. I don't want any of these connections. Like, no, let's not do that. This guy said, why don't we go get Elijah Robinson? Well, that was the whole rumor the first time around, is that we were going to hire Elijah Robinson from Texas A&M. I don't know if he's still at Texas A&M. He probably is. If I'm Elijah Robinson, why would I leave? Why would I leave Texas A&M? That's my question to you though. If I'm Elijah Robinson, why would I leave Texas A&M? And let's see. He's the defensive coordinator at Syracuse now. Good for him, man. Good for Elijah Robinson at Syracuse now as the defensive coordinator. Hey, that wouldn't be that bad, honestly. I like Elijah Robinson a lot. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you one thing about Elijah Robinson. He's a great recruiter. Interesting. So Elijah Robinson as defensive coordinator. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. We steal two Syracuse defensive coordinators in a row. Hey, that maybe. I'll think about that, honestly. Huh. Elijah Robinson. All right. Does this mean we lose Dawson Merritt? No. Dawson Merritt's locked in. Do we pull the trigger on Sue? No. Get, I love Ndamukong Suh. He's a legend. Um, but he has no coaching experience. Just because, and this is what Nebraska fans, all fans do this. Just because somebody was a good player doesn't mean they're going to be a good coach. Just because somebody's a good coordinator doesn't mean they're going to be a good head coach. Just because somebody's a good positional coach doesn't mean they're going to be a good coordinator. It works at all levels. Like I love Sue, but there's no guarantee if he were to become the defensive line coach that he were going to actually be good. You know what I mean? He has no experience in that aspect, so that's why I wouldn't do it if I were Nebraska. We got to get a DC and a defensive line coach that fit the player personnel. I agree with you, man. Especially DC. Like, are we going to run 3-3-5 next year? Are we going to like? In my opinion, what I want Nebraska to run, I want Nebraska to run a 4-2-5. Like that's my ideal defense. Like, a lot of defenses have been shifting towards that. Yeah, four defensive linemen, two linebackers, and five defensive backs. Okay. You know what's interesting is that Nebraska struggled so much stopping the pass this year. That was probably our worst aspect. And we had five defensive backs on the field. If we go to a 4-3 and only have four defensive backs on the field, stopping the pass is going to get even worse. So why would we go to a 4-3? I think that's dumb. In my opinion, we should go to a 4-2-5. We're toast. Two more 500 years, and then we start looking for another coach. Hey, maybe you're right, man. I don't know. I don't really want to think about that, though, to be honest with you. I've been looking at Nebraska decommits from the past, and we've lost some good ones. Notably, Chris Paul Jr. Yeah, we lost Chris Paul Jr., who was at Arkansas originally, now at Ole Miss. He's a stud. He's going to be an NFL draft pick. Um, there were a couple others who we lost, who I was looking at the other day. Um, but yeah, that was a big loss for Nebraska. Colin Oliver's another guy who he was never committed to Nebraska, but he ended up going to Oklahoma State as a linebacker, one of the best linebackers in the country as well. Yes, we've had some good decommits in the past, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully, we don't have any of this class. So I just want the university to do the right thing, pay whatever it takes to get a real coach. I agree with you, man. But again, let's be honest with ourselves. Do we really think that Matt Rhule is going to buy the best coach money can buy? Has he showed that in the past that he's willing to do whatever it takes? I don't think he has. I think Matt Rhule would probably take the comfortable hire, which is hiring from within. So if Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple crapping on Tony White, Terrance, I don't know. I'm not watching that live stream. They might be. They might be. But again, I'll tell you what my take is. My take is simply this: Terrance Knighton's a good coach. Tony White's a good coach. We lost two good coaches today. I'm not going to change my opinion based on if they're here or not. I don't like when people do that. Um, so that's my take, at least. Here's a question for you: who would you pick if you had to pick a hire? I would pick Jim Leonard as a defensive coordinator. No question about it. I would easily pick Jim Leonard. I think Jim Leonard's an absolute stud. Love Jim Leonard. And that's a guy who has his best days of coaching ahead of him. I believe he should be a future head coach. He's a good recruiter. He's a young guy. He has a lot of energy. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. He had a great team at Wisconsin, great defense at Wisconsin. So I think the choice is obvious. If you're Nebraska, that should be the first guy you call. It. Matt Rhule should be on the phone right now as we're talking, getting Jim Leonard to Lincoln. But that's who I want, man. It'd be funny if we took Robert Livingston from Colorado. Man, we want nothing to do with Colorado's coaching staff. I'll tell you that. Nothing to do with that. I do not believe the next defensive coordinator will come from within. Too much at stake. Um, I feel like we will know within 24 hours. I do too. I feel like things are going to happen pretty quickly here. I just because I think Matt Rule's seen this coming for a little while. Now the defensive line coach might take a little longer, or the defensive coordinator that we hire might bring along a defensive line coach. Um, but yeah, I think things will happen pretty quickly here. I'd imagine we know our defensive coordinator by Friday. So yeah, and that hurts me as a content creator because that means I gotta be checking my phone all the time, waiting for something to happen so I can make a dang video. But yeah, man, uh, tough to really care about. If Rule is that good of a defensive coach, it shouldn't matter. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think Matt Rhule is as a defensive coach or an offensive coach. Like I think he's just a game manager. I think he's a kind of a manager, player coach type of guy. He's an interesting case. Like yes, his background's in defense. He's been defensive coordinator in the past, but like Matt Rhule really had no say in this defense. Usually, like Scott Frost, for example, was an offensive coach. Usually, when you're an offensive coach, you have a say in the offense. Well, usually, when you're a defensive coach, you have a say in the defense. Matt Rhule technically is a defensive coach, but he hasn't had a say in the defense since Tony White's been here. So I just don't really look at him like that either. Any chance Dana has a say in who the DC is? Um, I I think he has a say, honestly, because but not in like I don't think he chooses or anything. I think he's more as a mentor. Like Matt Rule respects Dana a lot. Okay. Matt Rule respects Dana. He treats him like a mentor. He treats him like a former head coach. So I think he's gonna like Matt Rule basically asked Dana, "Hey, what do you think of this coach?" Like Matt Rule doesn't care. Like Dana's not gonna have an active part in hiring, as he shouldn't. He's an offensive coordinator, but yeah, he'll probably have a mentorship role. Just Matt Rule bounce ideas off him. That's really bad at it, though. Do you think Knighton wanted to follow him instead of staying, or why do you think Knighton wanted to follow him instead of staying? I think Terrance Nine probably. I don't know. It's interesting. I think sometimes he just has a really good relationship with the defensive coordinator. I don't know. Terrance Nine from Florida. No, he's not. But he's from the East Coast. I mean, Florida State as a defensive line coach probably is a better move than being a Nebraska defensive line coach. So I don't think it's too hard to too hard to really decipher that. Why does this dude for John Butler? I don't know. You got to rewrite that, man. Will they coach in the bowl game? They will not. They're gone, man. They just left. Well, imagine how awkward that would be, Chuck, if two coaches left for another job and coached in the bowl game. No, they're not coaching in the bowl game. We're gonna have some interims probably coaching the bowl game. I'll tell you this: John Butler's going to be our defensive coordinator in the bowl game. I'll tell you that. That's a fact. But yeah, we need to solidify our OC next year and announce it, whether it's staying or not. Yeah, I think we need to do that. I have a video planned for tonight's talking about Dana that I recorded yesterday. Dana's going to be back. Feel very confident about it, but we need an announcement. Like we know Dana's going to be back. All signs point to that. We need an announcement more than anything. So yeah, does calling yourself a CEO coach another way of saying I don't call plays, so you can't blame me? Hey, maybe it is, man. Maybe. Ryan Walters as DC. We talked about that a little bit. Like again, I actually kind of like Ryan Walters just because I think his best days of coaching are ahead of him. He's a young guy. He's fired up. He's ready to go. He's coming off of being fired. Has a lot to prove. But at the same time, he's also disrespected Nebraska in the past. He's a Colorado Buffalo. So I get it if we don't hire him. But I would certainly give him an interview. I would certainly give Ryan Walters an interview more than anything, man. More than anything. Jim Leonard, that's who I want, man. That's who I want. Again, but I just don't know if I have confidence in the coaching staff to make that move. That's my problem. I don't know if I have confidence in Matt Rhule to make a splashy hire like Jim Leonard and do the right thing. I don't know. Again, I'm keeping my eyes on if there's any more breaking news. Again, Gabe Irving left. I want to mention that. I made a video about that, obviously. Not that was the least shocking news of the day. Gabe Irvin, he was always going to leave. I feel bad for Gabe Irvin because his production went down, but make sure to mention that. But he's not going to be the last, guys. Not going to be the last. Is John Butler going to leave if he's not the defensive coordinator next year? Yeah, that's a good. I think he might. I think he might, man. I don't know, but I also think that he doesn't want to take another coaching job when he just took this coaching job. And I think the whole plan of us hiring him in the first place was to be our defensive coordinator when Tony White inevitably left. That's why I think it's going to be him. So, um, you would think they want to send their players out coaching their last game. Chuck, that's not what happens in college football. If you take another job, you don't coach the bowl. You don't. Again, that would be a slap. That'd be a slap on the head for every current Nebraska defensive player. Because that's disrespectful. You just left all those boys out to dry. You went to Florida State. And for them to stick around and coach the bowl game, that's not happening. That's awkward, man. So yeah, that's not happening. Yeah. Any potential O line targets in the portal? Not sure. Again, the portal's opening up on Monday, so there's a lot of names who aren't in that will be in. Again, we'll go over that probably next week at some point, whether or not we can get some guys through the portal. So, but yeah, man, Tony White gone, Terrance Knighton gone. Again, I no more coaches. I expect those probably be the only two. We might see like a low level coach leave with them. No other positional coaches are going to leave, but we might see like a graduate assistant leave of that nature. Um, would not be shocked. But again, the main thing I'm looking out for right now is how is it going to impact recruiting? Thankfully, I don't think many guys decommit. Like I think Cade's gonna. I think Cade Petersak's locked in. I think Malcolm Simpson's locked in. I think Tyson Terry's locked in. Dawson Merritt's locked in. Christian Jones. I don't really expect anybody to leave except potentially some of our secondary commits. But I'm watching out for the portal mostly because there's a lot of good guys in this team who I think will probably leave or have a good chance of leaving. Again, I told y'all this. Vincent Shavers is the number one. If I'm Nebraska, I'm on the phone with Vincent Shavers. I'm on the phone with his dad. How can you lock this brother down and keep him here? How can you lock down Amari Sanders, a guy who has a lot of potential in that secondary? Larry Tarver, another guy who has a lot of potential in that secondary. How can you lock those guys down? That's my question. This guy says we're a dumpster fire. Rule is lost. I don't know if I don't know if I'd go. I'd say that, man. You're the realest Nebraska YouTuber. Hey, that's why I try to be, man. I try to be honest with you guys. A Jay's jacket. Hey, just you guys caught me at a bad time, man. It's cold outside. It's cold outside. I had to put some on. It's cold outside. I should have been showing you guys this view this entire time. Look, where we at? Where we at? Yeah. Sean and Sipple sugarcoat everything and Rule could do no wrong in their eyes. Well, to be honest with you, like I get it from their standpoint because they're beat reporters. Like they have to have a good relationship with Rule. If they started trashing Rule or saying he's doing something wrong, like they would not have a good relationship with him. So yeah, that's the only thing there. Like that's the reason why they sugarcoat things. The only time they'll ever bash a coach who's currently with Nebraska is if they're basically going to be fired, basically no matter what. But yeah, they'll do that. Like for me, I can be honest about things because I'm just a content creator. Like I can no, I'm nobody's paying me to be nice or not be nice or whatever. But I'm going to be honest. That's what I'm going to be more than anything. Frost coach or the UCF bowl game. Maybe it should have been a sign. Yeah, maybe you're right. That again, that was a rare thing though. Like the fact that Scott Frost stayed for that Central Florida bowl game, that was rare. And the reason he did that was just because Central Florida, that was a big bowl game for them. That he wanted to have an undefeated season. Um, that was really the big reason he stayed was to have that undefeated season and to have that fake national title. But what he did was rare. That's not a norm. That's not a normal thing to happen in college football. Like Tony White will not coach the bowl game, amongst some other dudes. So, and we don't, and they don't dare to ask any tough questions. I agree with that. I agree. Like it's some. I think some beats needs to be more aggressive. All right, got some confirmation. Vincent Shaver's dad here in the chat. Appreciate love and support from guys who have no plans of leaving, but have to see how this plays out. That's how you should play it out, my man. That's exactly how you should play it out. Like, just and that's what that's what I'm going to tell to all players on this team, all recruits on this team. Like, before you guys make a decision, wait to see who Nebraska hires, what happens all there. Like, let's not make decisions just based on one move. Let's wait and see what Matt Rhule does here, and then go from there. Then we'll go from there. So I appreciate that, my man Vincent. I hope you and your son stay in Lincoln. We just gotta wait. We just gotta wait and see who we hire. Let's not be rash about this. Like the portal opens up. Like there's no rush in the portal. Portal opens up at the same time for everybody on Monday. But again, confirmation here from Vincent Shaver's dad that no plans of leaving, but we'll see how it plays out. That's the way you should take it, man. It's a business decision, man. You got to be smart about it. So we're hoping you guys stay. Mr. Rhodes says, "Will we try to match their pay offer, or do we know?" No, we're not. I don't think it's because of pay at all. I don't think Tony White's leaving because of pay. I don't know if he's getting paid more at Florida State. He had a pretty darn good contract in Nebraska. He's getting paid a lot of money. I think he was a top 10 paid defensive coordinator in college football. So it's not a money thing. He's not leaving because of money. Do you think some of the young defensive line recruits will leave at night? I don't think so. Maybe some currently on the team. That's the only thing. Like Keona Davis is another name I'd be worried about. I'd be worried about Keona Davis, man. I'd be really worried about Keona Davis. That's one guy who was not redshirted this year for Nebraska. People compared him to Ndamukong Suh throughout the season, um, throughout the offseason. So I don't know, man. Paul Chris for tight ends coach or special teams coach. I don't know about that, man. I don't really want anything to do with Paul Chris. I don't even. How old is Paul Chris even coaching nowadays? Or is he? I mean, he's old. He's an old dude. He's 60 years old. Is he coaching? Um, he's not coaching. No, I would not. I would not touch Paul Chris with a stick. Let's not do that. And I don't think Paul Chris is a good recruiter either. So I would not make that move. Wish him the best of luck though. I bet there's a lot of Wisconsin fans right now who wish they had Paul Chris on their coaching staff. But personally, I would not make that move out of Nebraska. But yeah, again, the guys who I'm watching out for the portal, like Amari Sanders, Larry Tarver tweeted out again some weird early. I want to pull up what Larry Tarver tweeted out on Twitter. Larry Tarver just said eye emojis about 4 hours ago. I think that probably he tweeted out probably when he was informed that Tony White was leaving. Um, we need Larry Tarver to stay though. Larry Tarver's a really good player. Demetrius Bell is another guy I'm worried about. Demetrius Bell tweeted out personal last night, and I quote personal. So I'm not sure what that means either. Again, there's some guys who I'm worried about leaving. Again, that's just modern day college football. Worried about Van Poppel leaving? Yeah, he's another name, and we've heard some rumblings about Van Poppel. I think Van Poppel's going to start next year though. So if I were him, I wouldn't. But I don't know. Rhule has been living in Rhule has been living on the edge. Heck, might as well bring Sue. Everybody's saying Sue. Ooh, Vincent Jackson, breaking news. Hold on. Let me pull this up, guys. Let me pull this up. Yep, you are. You are correct. We have another portal edition for Nebraska. Breaking news on the stream. Vincent Jackson, Nebraska defensive lineman, I believe his second year with the Huskers, is entering the portal. He tweets out, "It is bittersweet that I announce I'm entering the transfer portal. Husker Nation has been one of the best experiences witnessing such an electrifying fan base. I will cherish the memories." So Vincent Jackson, defensive lineman for Nebraska, is entering the portal. My instant reaction to this, not shocking. I'm not mad about this, to be honest with you. I wish Vincent Jackson the best. He didn't play. I mean, he just didn't play for Nebraska. Yeah, he didn't. I'm not worried about him. Not worried about him leaving. That's just the way it is. And again, we have to make cuts. Like we have 160 guys on the roster, 50 guys we need to cut between now and December. I think we have to make cuts by midnight or by New Year's Eve. So I'm not shocked by that. Not too mad about it. Not worth its own video, but thanks for mentioning that, Buckethead. Vincent Jackson, second guy who we've seen leave Nebraska in the last couple hours. Gabe Irvin was the number one. Vincent Jackson, number two. So yeah, my man Marks says college football is screwed. I don't know if it's screwed or not. Sports are always going to make changes. Whether that's the portal, whether that's recruiting, whether that's NIL. We just got to adjust. So it is what it is. But again, Vincent Jackson just announced by Sam McEwen and Vincent Jackson on Twitter that he has entered the transfer portal. So another guy leaving for the Big Red. Again, I wouldn't imagine. I'd imagine there's probably going to be more. Again, we have to be very vigilant about this over the next couple hours, next couple of days about who's going to leave because there's going to be guys who leave. It's just the way it is. But we got to see who. We got to see who. So Rhule leaving? No, man. No, Rhule. I guarantee. I bet everything that Rhule does not leave. I bet literally everything. Raiola is not leaving. But again, people for some reason that's the perception. Everybody kind of thinks he's going to leave. So, but he's not leaving. Again, I watch out for guys on the defensive side of the football, younger guys, Florida guys, Amari Sanders, Larry Tarver, Willis McGahee. Um, I watch out for some defensive linemen like Keona Davis, like Cameron Lenhard. That's a Florida guy. Um, Demetrius Bell, obviously, not things aren't looking great there. Davion Hall, Isaiah McMorris, a couple others. Those are the guys I'd watch out for. So feel free to take with that what you will. That's what I've been hearing rumblings over the last couple of months. Those are the guys I would primarily watch out for if I were the Big Red. Brett says Alex Grinch. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Frank O'Cam is the name I'm potentially hearing from defensive line coach. Let me look that guy up. That the name rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you how. Frank O'Cam is former defensive line coach for the Raiders. He was. I actually wouldn't mind that, honestly. It's not. He's currently with Toledo. That might not be the worst hire. That's where are you hearing that, Benjamin? I'll look into that. I will look into that. I think Foley's a good recruiter, but would rather bring Bush back. Here's the thing. Again, Ed Foley, in my opinion, should not be the special teams coach. That's obvious. But we don't have to fire him because you can have an unlimited size coaching staff nowadays. If I am Matt Rhule, I'm going to simply say, hey, Ed Foley, I respect you. I love you as a recruiter. We're going to keep you on the staff, my man. We're going to make a change at special teams. No hard feelings. You're going to still get paid, and then we're going to hire our own special teams coach. Is it going to be Bill Bush? It's not going to be Bill Bush though. It's not going to be Bill Bush. Just because Matt Rhule did not hire Bill Bush the first time, I'd say there's some bad blood there. Like you're not going to. Matt Rhule has too much pride to circle back and say, "Hi, hey, I messed up, Bill. I messed up. I'm going to hire you again." Like he has too much pride to do that. You're right. You're right. He does have some ties. So again, Frank Okam. I don't know where you're hearing that. I actually like that. That's a name I'm going to watch out for. Frank Okam, currently with the Toledo Rockets as a defensive line coach. Um, hey, that might be a move there. I'm going to watch out for that for sure. But all right, guys, don't want to be here too much longer. Again, got to keep an eye on this all day. Man, I got finals next week for college, and I got to be focused on all these crazy moves. I got to study, but I got to do all this too, man. It is what it is. No, but there's some crazy things that are going to happen. Portal, more coaches being hired. Yeah, we got our hands full for sure. But that's just what it's like being a Nebraska fan. Are we surprised? No, we've dealt with worse, guys. It's never a boring day as a Nebraska fan. Now, what I command Matt Rhule to do is make a good hire. Make a good hire, buy the best defensive line coach money can buy, the best defensive coordinator money can buy, and let's roll from there. Let's roll from there, guys. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this emergency live stream. Again, if you're somehow watching this and you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. I post daily Nebraska football content. Recruiting content's going to be off the walls over the next couple of days. So make sure to subscribe, hit the like button on the stream. Real quick, put your final comments in the chat. This guy says, does this change with any guys we are going after right now in recruiting? It'll change with some 2026 guys. We have some problems there, but not with 2025. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. I hardly think that Michael Terry, Cortez Mills, I don't think they give a crap about who's our defensive coordinator or not. I don't think they care. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. But again, appreciate you guys. Make sure to hit that like button on the stream. Again, please subscribe. We're on the road to 8,000. I post daily Nebraska football content and live streams just like this. So I'll keep you guys posted if there's any more news on the channel. Again, I'll be waiting standby for portal news, coaching news. But yeah. All right, I'll see you guys.